Hello. Are you all set?
It's a new installation. It's an installation of the honoring the American nerd and dork musicians.
That's great. I can't wait. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start up and we can get going. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, great. All right. Let me see. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks again for coming. I can't wait to get started on our interview today. Before we get going, I'd like to thank the folks that we always thank. Here we are, brassandwinds.com, Quinn the Eskimo Company. These are the folks we always call when we need assistance with instruments, accessories, things like that. Brass and woodwinds, fantastic people, and we suggest that you contact them too at www.brassandwinds.com. I'd like to return to an interview that we began a few weeks ago. I was talking with my good friend Steve Espinola, a New York-based songwriter. If you have not watched part one, I highly suggest that you take a second, check out our YouTube channel, and find part one of this interview to catch you up, because we're actually right in the middle of a conversation. Hey, Steve.
Hi. I don't even remember part one of the conversation anymore.
Well, Steve, then I highly recommend you go to our YouTube channel.
I should probably do that. I'm going to repeat myself all over the place unless you steer me away. So.
That's my job. That is my job. What we were talking about was a song in particular, and the song was I'm Done. I think, is it I'm Done with Nothing? That took you a long, long time to write.
No, it would have been I Know Nothing Anymore.
I Know Nothing Anymore. That was it. And you were in the middle of talking about how long it took you and why it took you so long.
Oh, okay.
Go.
Well, and then I finished it.
Yay. that was easy.
I don't know what I don't know what I said. I know I just don't remember where I left things off. Okay. So I wrote a version of it and I presented it, and I think I even said it was unfinished, but maybe it was just like one verse or a couple verses long. It was definitely, I just wanted to put it out there. And there's an interesting thing that happens when you play something in front of people. I don't know, maybe I project some, I'm not sure if it's that I'm reading the reaction. I don't think it even requires that. I think all it requires is just being aware of other people, and something changes. And as I was performing it, I was going, this is bullshit. Some of these words are I don't know what the song is about necessarily, but I do know that some of these things that I'm saying that are sort of surreal are kind of fake surreal. They don't feel true in some way. And so I've got to take my glasses off because I'm just seeing this. Anyway, so I didn't like it. And it bugged me because I really liked the music, and I felt like I just kind of wanted it to be a great song. And that's usually the kiss of death. Usually the only things of mine typically that come out well are the ones where I don't have some grand vision of it. That seems to be the worst thing I can do. Like things come out better, or at least things that I think of are good seem to be better if I trick myself into saying something I didn't know I wanted to say or didn't want to say, or admitting something I didn't want to admit. That seems to be the better stuff. So it was definitely not in this song's best interest that I really wanted it to be good. And I kept coming back to it, and I kept saying, well, let's just start over. I knew I liked the first couple of lines. I knew the song was I Know Nothing Anymore, and that's kind of all I knew. And so every time I tried it again, I would kind of do the same thing. I would just sort of try to free associate and write a bunch of stuff, and not try to make it about anything, which seemed to be right, given that it was called I Know Nothing Anymore. And every time I felt like it was coming from a different perspective and a different voice and just a different style of words. And inevitably I'd come up when I was done with like a couple lines that I liked, and then most of it I thought was just kind of bad. And then sometimes like one version was suddenly this much more literal, not, literal and vulnerable and not surreal thing. And that was another version of the song. It was almost kind of like a love song. And I kind of liked that, but it wasn't a full song. And it just would keep going like this. And then there was another problem, which was that I had written a piece of music for the second part where there were very few syllables in each line, which turned out to be, once I started to write words to it, really hard. So it's like, I'll do that one again. So the second part goes like, la, 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 love, the dude, la, sorry. La, 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 la. That sounds lovely, but that is very hard to put words to. And then I also didn't know whether I liked that better. It's like a 3-chord thing. Or I had another idea of what it should do, which is da 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 da. So I didn't know which ones. I kind of liked both ideas. I didn't know what to do. So it just was another thing. I would just try putting in words in there, and they were always bad. They just, nothing, I didn't like anything I came up with for that section. So I just kept coming back to it. Once in a while, I would just pull the thing out again and just try it again. And eventually, I became homeless.
So you really did know nothing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like I started it in like 2010, and then in 2012 I lost the apartment I'd had for 19 years. The landlord just wanted to charge what the apartment rightfully deserved to be charged. I'd gotten a very good deal for a long time, so I didn't hold it again. And he added about 50% to the rent after I moved out. So I had a couch surfing period. My semi-career as a Flash animator for corporations had just gone away because there was no more Flash animation. So I was just trying to figure out what the next thing was going to be. So I was house sitting for a couple days. I guess it was, in 2013. And I think I had a show coming up, and I really wanted to do something new for the show. I just couldn't bear playing the same old song. So I was like, okay, let's just try another version of this darn thing. And what I found is that by this time, I had accumulated some 20 pages of just word salad and garbage. And I had noticed that as I kind of walked around, there were certain lines each time I would do this that were memorable, that I could just recall right away. And I would go, oh yeah, like the words were catchy enough that they stuck with me. So what I just did is I went through all these pages. I even had to have someone, I left some of the pages at someone's house, and I had to call them up, and they had to dictate those over the phone. Some of them were in emails I'd written to myself. It was a scattered mess, but I had this big stack of stuff, and I just went through all the pages and circled the lines that I liked. It's like, oh yeah, okay, those ones are good. And I just sort of put them together. I might have even, I don't think I literally cut up pieces of paper, but it was kind of like that. It's like, oh, well, there are 2 lines here there's a gap here. There's 2 lines here. Do I have any places where I wrote 2 lines for that part that would fit in there? It was literally like a jigsaw puzzle. It was find the piece that and with no worrying about any linearity or any, just trying to find words that fit into the spots so that there wouldn't be any gaps. And maybe there was a leftover line or two, and then I just filled in a line here or there. And I don't know if that's when I came up with the middle section, that the 1 syllable stuff. I think at some point I'd come up with. So those ones are just silly. I eventually, for that part, I just tried to find 2 syllable rhymes, stuff that just didn't necessarily make any sense, but they were phrases that were 2 syllables, both syllables, that were in parallel lines. So it was like, life's a lamb shog, a damn fog, a damp frog, a scamp dog. It was just like that. And I used both variations of that middle part so that it wasn't the same each time, both musical variations. And when I was done, I had something that I really liked, that the inconsistency of tone actually was kind of cool, because it ended up feeling like a patchwork quilt of voices, and the fact that none of it really made any linear sense ended up kind of working, and it meant that it created a thing where, I guess it became kind of like a Burroughs cut-up technique, where that stuff.
William S. Burroughs, the author.
Yeah, exactly. Where the juxtapositions kind of worked. So I don't think it was entirely random as to what things I was putting together, but kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up feeling like, unlike the first time I presented it, it felt, the weird stuff felt true in it.
Mm.
It had a dream logic that I liked.
So are you saying that the weird stuff felt true because of the other stuff you'd added kind of gave it a context to make it work?
I don't know. I think I just had written enough stuff that the lines that were actually, that some inner critic in me liked.
Mm-hmm.
It just like, yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't know what makes me go say something is good and something isn't good.
Well, I want to ask you about that. And there's a danger, of course, of the story
Yeah.
of the guy that asked the centipede, what leg do you move first? And then he wasn't able to walk anymore. I don't want to put you in that situation. So you can bag out of this question. But a lot of songwriters, I should say some songwriters, are really focused on what they think their audience wants to hear. And that's how they decide what words to put in. And others are just thinking about what they want to say. In this case, what was your overall, what was the god of this song? Was it this isn't going to make sense to them, or this doesn't make sense to me, or a combination?
Well, doesn't make sense to. Oh, well, in the end, I felt like it made sense.
Mm-hmm. But as you were writing, that critical process, the thing that said, no, not good enough, that kept you writing the song for years, was that a voice that said, this isn't going to be good enough for the audience? Or was it a voice that said,
oh, me. No, I've had plenty of times where I felt got in front of people. I've had times, I think there was a turning point kind of early on, like late college, where I found myself, I had a pretty appreciative audience of at least friends or something that I would get in front of in college. And I noticed, I felt like I had a couple of things, maybe it was just even one song, maybe it was 5 songs, where I felt like I went for cheap laughs, or I felt like this'll work. And it kind of did, although you never know, maybe someone is just being polite. But what I noticed was, if I didn't like it or I didn't respect it, I didn't care what reaction I got. and I couldn't bear it. If I felt like I was getting out there and doing something for someone else's reaction, that was that was unbearable to me. And it's happened since then. Sometimes I catch myself. Sometimes I don't know or sometimes my opinions about things change all the time. I'll get embarrassed about something for a while, and then I won't be embarrassed by it. Sometimes it'll make sense again. Sometimes something will feel very juvenile, and then 10 years later I go, like, oh, that's what you think love is when you're a kid, and then 10 years later I'll be like, no, that just keeps coming back. That's a real even if it is a juvenile thing, it's a perpetual juvenile thing. And maybe it's the thing will happen to me again, whatever it is, love or whatever else, and it'll
I had that
suddenly.
experience with your song, She'll Never Know.
Yeah,
Which when I first heard it when I was 20, I felt like, oh yeah, I know exactly how he feels. That poor kid, that's me. And then in
right,
my 30s, I'm like, yeah, that stupid kid, she'll never
right,
know. Oh, boo hoo hoo. And
yeah,
then like I'm almost 50 years old, and I'm like, oh God, if I was 50 and she'll never know, she's really never gonna know. This is horrible. That poor guy.
that song is a good example. It's a song about someone who's afraid to tell someone that they are in love with them, and they're afraid they're gonna go away. Sort of the same plot as Please Do Not Go by the Violent Femmes, which I think manages to say it much more succinctly. But yeah, that's a perpetual thing. You like to think that you become a better communicator and you'll tell people, but nope, that has happened to me since then. It's happened, let's say, within the last 10 years.
Well, I think it's fascinating that you bring
Yeah.
up this idea of that you could write an effective song. You could have
Mm.
even written a song other people would have thought was great, but if you didn't like it, you couldn't bear it. And that is not the case for some songwriters.
Mm.
In fact, some extremely successful songwriters, I think you can feel that they don't really care how they
Mm.
feel about the song at all. They just want the audience to like it. And
Uh-huh.
I've had trouble putting words to that. Like, what is it that they're doing?
Mm.
How does it feel different to me? And I don't want to mention any names. I've already bashed poor Neil Diamond once, and I think he's a great songwriter. So I'm not going to say him, but and I do love you, Neil, if you ever watch this. But
uh,
I want to ask you: am I mistaken? Uh, you had a lot of trouble writing this song, and yet you went ahead and performed it out. In my experience with you, I feel like you generally don't do that. Like, you don't put a song out there mostly until it's done. Like, you're hesitant to put a song out. But I could be wrong. Is it a mix for you? Do you sometimes work songs out
oh
in
no, I
process,
like
or
I like trying things out in front of people.
maybe not
I,
recording them then?
yeah, I mean, I have a problem. I've a. It's funny because I'm pretty good at getting. I like recording other people, at least in this kind of lo-fi, no-fi approach. I like helping people capture stuff, but I'm very bad. I think I need to get other people to help me with that. I'm very bad at recording my own stuff. Um, so
Well, you still have many, many albums out, so you've recorded a lot. But you're
yeah,
suggesting there's a lot more.
yeah, and I don't really. I mean, I have like kind of demo albums, but shopped. I've never shopped my stuff around ever.
Mm-hmm.
And the few times that people have offered me stuff, I kind of have gone back and go, God, I dropped the ball on that. So
No, I don't know if you dropped the ball. You chose not to. You want to talk about why?
no, I've sort of just not gotten back to people and then forgotten about it. That's sort
But
of
surely that's a choice, right?
not always a conscious choice. Sometimes it's an ADD
Mm.
or just truly getting caught up in the day-to-day thing,
Okay.
So
Well, we've talked a lot about you as a songwriter, both in the previous interview. That was all about
did,
songwriting, pretty much.
did we, I hold that thought. Did we
Uh-huh.
feel like we didn't quite finish a thought about that something I wanted to say about that.
Was it about
Uh,
Neil Diamond?
no, I feel like it was about that song. Even though I mean, we've exhausted things about that song, but I feel like it was such a good example
Yeah.
of something. But
Is there another song that took you a lot of time?
no, I was just trying to
Okay. Well,
go ahead with your thing. If I think of
no,
something, I'll
it's
come
okay.
back to it. I can't
All right.
remember what I was.
If you think of it, you can interrupt us and
Yeah.
we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
I guess where I was beginning to go, and maybe this will bring you to that same spot,
Okay.
was that we've talked a lot about you as a songwriter,
Mm,
and I've always associated you with songwriting primarily, but
mm.
you didn't start out, that wasn't your first creative impulse. When you were a kid, you told me that it wasn't songwriting, it started out as something else.
Well, yeah. I mean, there were a series of things. Um, I mean, I was just a creative little kid. I kind of wasn't good at a lot of stuff. I don't think I had the whole social thing so down, and I don't think I had sports down. And I think in a way they were kind of the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently remembered how much I liked the TV show Zoom. Found a couple of Zoom groups on Facebook and realizing because the message of that show is you can do these cool things, and I was just floored by what these kids were doing, and I would always try to do these things. So a big one was filmmaking. My parents had bought me a little wind-up Super 8 filmmaker movie camera, regular 8, and I would just make little films with my friends, and I would also make animated films. So I liked that. And I even ended up making me and two other kids each made animated television commercials for a clothing store when I was about 12. We had all taken classes at a place called the Yellow Ball Workshop in Lexington, and we got picked out as kids who they wanted to work with on this thing. I got paid a whopping $100 for this thing, and it ran for a year. My mom says 2 years. I don't remember that on a Providence TV station. So that was a big ego boost for me. Now there was a lot of adult help with that. I mean, I designed all the characters and all this stuff, but it needed. It wasn't like I did the whole thing myself.
Well, you frequently collaborate with people and get help, so that's
Sure.
nothing new.
Yeah, but I mean, a 12-year-old kid isn't going to have all the skills to make something ready for TV. So I did that. I did a lot of stuff with my friend Tim Fisher, who's still one of my best friends. But we would do little radio. We would make up kind of radio parodies of things and just hours and hours. I guess a lot of kids did that kind of stuff. But so Tim and I were making films, and we would make these tapes, and I would make animated things. And I feel like I'm forgetting stuff, but I was always doing music stuff too. I was also making up music, and sometimes I'd make up music tracks for the movies that I made. My dad helped with some of the film stuff. He let me use his camera. He actually did the photography for a long thing I did when I was 10. That was like a 40-minute Super 8 film called Inspector Nitwit, which was sort of a Pink Panther ripoff. But I edited the whole thing together. It was like a 2-reel film. So yeah, I just did stuff like that. And when we did the TV commercial, they took us to a recording studio to do all the overdubbing and create the thing. And that was my first time in a recording studio. And the fact that we could speed our voices up and do all these overdubs, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And the problem with film was it was expensive for me, and I had no money basically. And every year I had to wait for Christmas and then my birthday a month and a half later. And that was when I would get the film. That I would just ask for film every year. And I had to, hoard that film to make it last through the year. That was going to be my film. I mean, I don't know, maybe I could plead with my parents to get some more film if I really had an idea. But I would just make the films off of that film stock for a while, and then I'd have to, do do new ones. So that was expensive. And I think at some point I realized that like doing recording and music was just less expensive. So I don't know. I mean, I think that was a factor, but I also think maybe I just had to pull gradually in that direction
Mm-hmm.
towards
Does
towards songs.
you said you were doing Flash animation as recently as about 7 years ago, so clearly you're still making movies to some extent even now. Has that been true?
Yeah, well, I stopped doing the Flash. I mean, it's funny because the one funny thought is that most of the things I do in some way or other are things that I was passionate about by the time I was 7 or 8 years old. And I'm really the same person because I loved records when I was a little kid. Loved recording devices, was just fascinated by the idea of recording. There's actually a recording of me trying to explain what recording is when I'm about 4 or 5. And it's totally magical and doesn't make any sense. But I think the whole thing was miraculous to me. And I remember going to a antique museum in Maine where we would go every summer, and they had a wind up cylinder recorder, cylinder player. And I think there was something about that. There was no electricity in it, and I could just see the miracle of this in front of me. I could kind of grok it. I was like, oh my God, that's sort of what this is. I don't think I fully understood it, but it was this thing that you could just see it. There was nothing hidden, and it was still miraculous. And I think that kind of made me fascinated by it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I've remained fascinated by. I started, a bandmate of mine gave me a home record cutter from the 40s about, I guess at this point, about 15 years ago. And I'd always wanted to have one, and I couldn't find any information on how you made these work, how to fix them. There just wasn't much. So I started a website, a chat forum specifically to get my own questions answered, and it persists to this day. It's called the Secret Society of Lathe Trolls. The record cutting devices are record lathes. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I'll show you. I was just cutting on mine yesterday. This is one of my other jobs. So this is, right now I've got a Bo Diddley record on there, but this is a record lathe. If this were not a finished record, if this were a record platter, we could put this right there, and you could move this in place, and I could make a record on this thing. And I've got the whole apparatus for that. This is the heating. This thing heats the stylus. There's a vacuum cleaner down here that collects all the stuff that you cut out of the record, the swarf. And
you were recording records onto Frisbees, weren't you?
Picnic. I don't think you can do Frisbees, although that's cool. No, they were picnic plates. Mm-hmm. I was cutting onto plastic picnic plates, which was not. I didn't make that up. That wasn't my idea.
Well, there was stuff like that in Mad magazines, those little plastic floppy.
The little flexidiscs, yes. Yeah. But yeah.
So fascination with objects, especially recording objects. I know you had some interest in reel-to-reel and doing some stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, just general, all sorts of geekery.
Uh-huh. Do you feel that any of this songwriting stuff that you do, like when you write a song, is that kind of an interest? Do you have an interest in the mechanical process of that as well? Do you kind of feel like you're tinkering with songs, like you tinker with machines?
Yeah, there's some of that. I think the tinkering part came first before I really had anything to say. I think I felt like someday I'll actually want to express myself with this, but I don't there was an awareness that I lacked a complexity of thought especially the lyric part. I was making up stuff. Maybe I said this in the last time, that when I started making up music, I felt like it was kind of incomplete. I felt like these are kind of pretty little things, but they're not really, they don't feel like they do the job on their own. These sound like, it was like feeling like I'm making boxes that someday I will know what to put in them, and that the thing I want to put in them will be the words. So, and I think that's true. I think the words was the last part that I figured out at all, and it remains the part that I feel I struggle with, and that I feel the least secure about. There's plenty of things where I feel like, oh, that's a really great tune, and there's always, I don't think I've ever written a song that doesn't have at least a line or two that makes me cringe. Usually it's something like a a bad metaphorical moment. I've worked really hard at trying to move away from that. I feel like a lot of the stuff I did in my 20s, I started messing around with metaphorical stuff more, and I think I got way too fancy and not always good. I think sometimes I didn't realize that for example, I'm setting a scene that the story itself is a metaphor because it can stand for a lot of other things, and then I'd put a metaphor inside that, so it was like I don't know, it was a metaphor inside a metaphor or something. It was not good, and there's certain songs I think I just ruined that way, and I've never been able to fix them, and want to, and
Was
just
there an
can't.
early turning point song for you? A song that you'd say was the first time you were like, yeah, okay, this is different.
Uh, uh, I think there have been a number of those, and some of them were ones where, so, some of the ones that felt, oh, this is different. A lot of those haven't really held up. Like, it was a breakthrough for being 15 or
Hmm.
something, or a little older.
But we're talking about your process, not so much, which songs are going to go in the museum, but for you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a few of them, but unless I play them, I don't know how interesting it would be to someone else. I think, um,
You could play pieces of them.
I guess.
At least I'd like to get the names.
Well, when I was 15, it was the song, the Castle Song, which is one
Oh,
that
yeah.
I've often thought was especially silly because it was such an attempt at an epic. It was, when you're 15, especially, there was such a thing with that, with album oriented rock, the extended epic pieces. Every important band had one. Led Zeppelin had Stairway to Heaven, and the Who had Won't Get Fooled Again. They were always these longer songs. Leonard Skinner had Freebird. I guess the Beatles had the Abbey Road medley even, and so Styx had Come Sail Away, or they
Right.
Paradise Theater or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you're 13 or 14, they were in the pantheon too. So that was, so that the Castle Song was mine, and it was made up of at least 7 different sections, and some of them were very, there were proggy aspects to it. And then I just around the time I think I went to college, and that was the hit. Like, all my friends wanted to hear that one. I got embarrassed by it. The interesting thing is, it's about a corrupt. It's from the point of view of a corrupt and ineffective leader who's just clueless about how selfish and stupid he is, and it actually is felt weirdly apropos at times in the current administration, and it hasn't felt so bad. And I had a reunion concert with my old collaborator, Dew Peterson, formerly known as Dwight Peterson, and we did the song again, and it was fun. It was really fun. We did the whole damn thing. I don't want to play it. I don't feel like
Well, with your permission, I can always include recordings of these songs at the end of the video for folks who want to hear them.
Okay. I don't even like the recordings of that one so much, but yeah, that was. Or you could link to the recent. I think the performance we did of that is on YouTube. I like that.
Sure.
Fun. And
what other songs?
My Thesaurus is my best friend. That's a good song, and I still do that one. That one's good. I'll play a little of that. That's fun. That felt like a breakthrough somehow. I don't want to do the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm not really in the mood to play songs today.
That's okay.
Is that the key? No, no, no. No. Well, I'm walking along. I'm cool, collected, and calm. I've got a tune in my heart and lots of soul in my song. You know, I feel real together. I feel so secure. Then I see you approaching and my jaw hits the floor. I get tongue-tied, mouth-dried, speechless and dumb. I keep searching for a sentence where the words won't come. And when I don't have a clue as to what I can say, who saves the day but my friend Roger? My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus is my best friend. He's my companion, pal, compatriot, my buddy till the end. My thesaurus is my best friend. When I talk to you, my mind draws a blank. I've got a hole in my head. I've got a leaky think tank. You know, I get real gauche. I get ce je ne sais quoi. Roger is the way I stay away from faux pas. He is the key to winning your heart. He keeps my conversations from falling apart. He gives me the words that I need to get by, to be a wicked with it, due to be a groovy, cool guy. My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus is my best friend. He's my companion, pal, compatriot, my buddy till the end. My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus. My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus. My thesaurus is my best friend. You make my heart pound, flutter, throb, pulsate, and beat. You kindle my tinders. You put me in heat. I hunger and I hanker, crave and lust and yearn for you. I desire and end up pure and pant and gasp and burn for you. You're the cat's meow, the apple of my eye, the bee's knees. I wish you were my darling, precious sweetie pie, my main squeeze, so I can gratify, excite, caress, debauch, and stimulate you. Seduce, arouse, ignite, inflame, make love, and consummate you. My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus is my best friend. He's my companion, pal, compatriot, my buddy till the end. My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus is my best friend. My thesaurus is my best friend. He's my companion, pal, compatriot, my buddy till the end. My thesaurus is my best friend.
Thank you so much.
There we go. I wasn't going to do the whole thing in there.
A song about you found a way to help you get the words.
That's right. There we go. Yeah. Well, I was in a you know what I think was a breakthrough at that point was I was taking a translation workshop in the creative writing program at Oberlin. So it was all about being presented with poems in other languages, and we'd be told what they said in that language, and they'd have a translation expert from that language, and then we'd turn it into a good poem, a poem that worked in English and hopefully had the same cadence and feeling to it somehow as the original poem, which is an impossible task because poems are so much a matter of a mastery of the language that they are in. So inevitably, a translation of a poem is going to have maybe some of the meaning or of it, but it's most poems are inherently kind of untranslatable in some way. They can just suggest what the original one was, but somehow that opened up something for me. That was really a good thing. It's a great exercise, and I should do that again, because that I loved doing that. Loved what that did to my head. And I think shortly after that I started writing songs I liked more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had a group you called your October Songs. Was that one of them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that those are really great songs. That was that same time, though. That was right around that time. But I just liked. I don't think those are great songs as songs for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
there was a breakthrough.
yeah. Well, if
Yeah.
you've got time for one or two more of these, this is fascinating for me.
Okay.
You don't have to play them, I promise, but I do want to know what they are.
What do you mean? What?
Well,
what
you
do,
can play them.
What are you? I just don't know what you're asking.
Are there others? Like, I'd like to continue hearing
Oh,
more of these songs.
well, I would say it's funny. I think when songwriters talk about there's often a period of a bunch of breakthroughs that happen in a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just the way it tends to go. I would say the other big one of that time that I still do was a song called "Watching Clouds Roll By" or "Watching Clouds Go By," and that was a little later. Maybe that was a couple years later, but that was a song. That's a song I still think is really good. And again, there was a long period where I thought, there's something very early 20s nihilistic about this that doesn't, but I think that was just a good song. It was like a song about impermanence and mortality and our ego wanting to create something
These are things you think you understand when you're 20, and then you really start to understand them when you get older, and then there's a gap in between, like we were talking about.
Maybe, yeah, but I think I got it pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I say we think we understand, it doesn't mean we can't channel the truth. We may say things that are very true, but we really don't necessarily have the experience to own them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember what, I don't remember why I wrote that song or how I wrote that, or
maybe you did have an experience to own it. If you certainly
well, it
dealt
was
with
after
death
my dad. It was after my dad died.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my thesaurus was right after my dad. So somehow my dad's death definitely changed things up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was just coincidence. I don't think so. I think I just let a lot of things kind of slide after then and gave myself more permission to work on things.
Yeah.
But, maybe you can link to, I think there's a good version of that song from the same show with Stu Peterson.
Yeah, I'd be happy to link to that performance. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, are you looking? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I keep having these little passing thoughts, and then they kind of go away. But so when I was like 21 when I wrote that song,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at that point there was something more. I think I found a voice around that time for what I was doing that felt more like me. Like I feel like in some ways I'm still writing in that style more or less. I think I think what I've done keeps changing over the decades, so it may be more of a sense of where it's coming from than the way it sounds. But maybe it basically sounds the same too. I don't know. Here's something. This is what I wanted to say.
Oh, good.
There's a song I've been playing. I'm really sad that I did my thesaurus in that key. I can't really sing in that key anymore. And now I'm like, ow, that hurt. There was a song I wrote around the time of my thesaurus, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later. And it was another one of those things where I felt like, I think this is a good song. And it was frustrating to me that the words weren't any good. And but I would keep playing the music over the years to it. I just liked the tune to it. And then like 22 years later, turned out it was 22 years almost to the day that I first wrote words to it. I just found myself coming back to it. I was doing one of those February do an album in a month projects.
Yeah, RPM challenge.
It was the RPM challenge.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of that, and I told myself I was going to only write new songs. Everything was going to be new. But this one was really persistently there. And I'm pretty organized about my lyrics. I never throw any of that stuff out, and I have a shelf full of stuff. So I kind of knew where to find the old lyrics because I knew more or less when I'd written it. And I found them. It was several pages of lyrics attempting to write words to this song. And there were lots of things crossed out because I just thought they were embarrassing and dorky. And I would write little notes next to like, ugh, you know. And what I found was that the song was 90% done. And that the only problem was I'd crossed out all the good lines. Everything that was crossed out was just fine. Everything I was embarrassed by was good. And the stuff that I didn't like was the stuff I liked was no good. So I just switched around what was crossed out and not crossed out, and probably wrote a few more things. And then it was pretty much done. So it's felt like a new song, but it's actually a song from maybe even a little bit earlier than my thesaurus. That was just so in other words, it was really a matter of not trusting myself that was in the way.
What's that song called?
That's Run Away With Me. I'll play a little bit. What key do I do this in? I don't remember how it goes. Don't. I can only remember the second verse. Listen, my love, that's your wild heartbeat yearning. Your home wants to warm you and free you by burning. Can you hear the breeze swaying? Won't you be my darling? Can you feel the trees praying? Won't you be my darling? When that train whistle blows, won't you come and be my baby? When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run away with me? Hopes are hiding and dreams are scarce, days are dying a dime a dozen. When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run away with me? So it's
Yeah, I love that song. That's one of my favorites.
yeah, mine too.
voice is shot after Martha. So
Yeah, it's okay.
So yeah, all the music is from then, except that when I started doing it live, I record most of my shows when I play, which isn't such a big deal because I don't play out that often. Just in case something interesting happens that I don't want to lose. And I was playing it live, and I just felt myself wanting to keep playing. And I just kind of made up a whole second half of the song kind of on the spot. I just kind of improv the whole thing. And then, or the beginning of a thing, and then kind of every time I'd play it, I would do that again, and it would get longer and more extensive, and it became this whole second instrumental half of the song that happened almost entirely by composing it in front of people in a succession of performances. So yeah, I like that one.
That's neat.
Yeah. And I can't remember anymore which are the old lyrics and which are the new ones. I think the ones I sang to you are, a lot of those were new. I don't think I came up with that. Your home wants to warm you and free you by burning line. I don't think I wrote that when I was.
There's a line, because I want you and you want me, I think.
I think that's new.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I can't remember. If I had come up with that before, I would have. That's definitely one I would have crossed out. Yeah. Some friend of mine doesn't like that line. He thinks that's too cute, and because it rhymes with something, that's why he does that. But I like it. I don't mind. So run away with me. Let's run, my hun, from the humdrum that haunts you. Don't cry, my love, 'cause you wants me and I wants you. Can you hear the wind whistling? Won't you be my darling? Can you hear the wind whispering? Won't you be my darling? When that train whistle blows, won't you run and be my baby? When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run away with me? Hopes are hiding and days are scarce, dreams are dying a dime a dozen. When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run away with me? Listen, my love, that's your wild heartbeat yearning. Your home wants to warm you and free you by burning. Can you hear the owls howling? Won't you be my darling? Can you feel the owls scowling? Won't you be my darling? When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run and be my baby? When that train whistle blows, won't you run away with me? Hopes are hiding and dreams are scarce, days are dying a dime a dozen. When that train whistle blows, won't you run away with me? Time will come due for returning, and we will come to in this mean old world. So let's take a trip to the other side, bringing back some good things. Let's run, my one, then we'll love till we're aching. We'll fix the parts of our hearts we've been breaking. Can you feel the trees swaying? Won't you be my darling? Can you feel the breeze praying? Won't you be my darling? When the train whistle blows, can I run and be your baby? When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run away with me? Hopes are hiding, dreams are scarce, but there ain't no use in worrying. When you hear the whistle blow, won't you run away with, run away with, run away with, run away with me? probably literal that the train crashed or something. I'm not sure. I wasn't thinking that way though. It was just doing its thing. No, I don't think it crashed. I think it I don't know. It did something much more magic than that. I think it kind of vaporized or something. It reached a oneness. So this is from an album that we did in a month.
Oh my God, that's right.
Called
Oh my God.
I
forgot about that.
Called Stuck. And I made this epic recording of this song. This is the epic. Epic is coming up a lot. And I sang the vocals in a snowdrift because that was where he was very about like the right audio quality, and
That's right.
It didn't sound right in his room.
This song.
That's right. So I had to be outside with boots, and I sang it. It was perfect. That was the correct tonality. It sounded right. Okay, so here's the song. We're good?
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
That's my way of saying I'm nervous. Huh?
I'm just remembering. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm sitting on a hill, painting pictures of trees, trying to save the scene and summon up my masterpiece. So maybe someday when I'm dead and gone, the way I saw the world around me's gonna still live on. And one of these days it's gonna turn out right if I keep crossing my fingers with all of my might. And I'm watching clouds roll by, watching clouds roll by, watching pretty clouds roll by. I look past the clouds to a star overhead. I bet a telescope person put her name on it. So when she's disappeared, her special star will shine. But that star's still gonna fade, it's just a matter of time. She's gonna be forgotten, it's her destiny. Guess that nothing quite makes it to eternity. And I'm watching clouds roll by, watching clouds roll by, watching pretty clouds roll by. And I'm watching clouds roll by, watching clouds roll by, watching pretty clouds roll, watching pretty clouds roll. I'm sitting on a hill, watching the clouds drift past, and I'm thinking of the friendships that I thought would last. We kissed goodbye and said we'd always keep in touch, but compared to time together, letters don't do much. I still have a photo from a long lost day. Tried to hold on to that moment, but it still slipped away. And I'm watching clouds roll by, watching clouds roll by, watching pretty clouds roll, watching pretty clouds roll, watching pretty clouds roll, watching pretty clouds roll by. Oh, I could have sung it. earlier I couldn't sing the last note. That's why I kept backing
just-
out. I was going.
He gave it to me. I'm like, I'm all alone. I'm like, I feel naked. Like it was double tracked, and then all of a sudden, oh man, on purpose.
Do you know? I think we should switch in the interest of time. Yes, if we had to skip anything and do something, we have
Yes.
to do by Prague.
Yes,
Epic.
definitely. Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yeah,
now?
definitely the castle song.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Led Zeppelin earlier, and so when I was we actually asked people. People were excited that we were doing, like our old college buddies, and we also went to college together. Our old fans on Facebook. We asked them what songs we should do, and we're actually doing this. That's kind of what we're doing. And but one of the surprising ones was it was a prog rock epic that I wrote when I was 15. It was kind of my first important song, and it was designed to be an important song. And I took a very careful survey of
Was it inspired by what?
Well,
Yes?
I took a careful survey of what was which songs on the radio were important, and I decided I was gonna beat them all. It was Stairway to Heaven. We had that in there. We had Sweet Judy Blue Eyes by Crosby, Stills and Nash. Roundabout by Yes. Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick. Joe Walsh's Life's Been Good. And any song that was like drawn out and took a whole commercial break to perform. That's what I was aiming for. So you'll hear also Hendrix's Are You Experienced is somewhere in there. Paul McCartney, Admiral Halsey, and also Godspell and Santana are in there somewhere. And then yes, Styx, Come Sail Away, or one of those songs from that. Foolish Angry Young Man. Foolish. That's in there too.
All right.
Yeah. So that's what you're hearing here, and it was. I found myself thinking about this song a lot during the W. Bush years. I was like, wow, I really got at something there that wasn't even happening. Anyway, so this song is about 20 different little sections in it, and we haven't played it in about 35 years. So
Here we go.
bear with us. We're terrified. And we're doing it straight, We're just going for it. We don't quite know why, except that the people requested it, so we have to do it. Okay. My dad was a wise king, so everyone said, but that was years ago. Now the old man is dead. His last words to me, if I still can recall, were don't screw up my kingdom, that's all. Well, I live here in are you experienced? Because they're recording it backwards drums. I can hear the troops approach the castle, trumpets start to scream, and I pinch myself and realize that this is not a dream, and I know my reign is ending as the stained glass windows fall, and my life will soon be ending, and I'm up against the wall. My dad was a wise king, so everyone said, but that was years ago. Now the old man is dead, and his last words to me, if I still can recall, were don't screw